everybody. Hi, Matt. Hello. So, thank you all so much for joining us this evening. It's wonderful to see such an incredible turnout. It's just indicative of how much folks in our neighborhood care about what's happening here and want to participate in the process. We're so thankful to all of the candidates this evening for joining us and for giving us the opportunity as neighbors to ask questions and find out a little bit more about their views on all of the topics that matter to our neighborhood and the city and the state. Tonight's event includes candidates running for seats in the WBNA focus area who will be on the Democratic primary ballot tomorrow, September 12th. We apologize for the proximity of this forum to the actual day of voting. We had several issues that made it challenging to get scheduled. We take the month of August off at the WBNA. Labor Day was challenging, and there were several other scheduling conflicts for candidates. So this was the only time that we were able to do it, but hopefully you will still find it informative and useful for tomorrow. I should have mentioned that my name is Matt Gabor. I'm the board president of the WBNA, and I will be helping facilitate this evening, mostly focused on helping facilitate the process of asking questions from the audience. So, because this is focused on the Democratic primary tomorrow, I'd like to ask you to save the date for our second candidates forum, which will be happening on Tuesday, October 2nd. That will include independent and Republican candidates. And our opening reception that we just had out there invited all of you, both Democrats and Republican and independent candidates, to come and meet and mingle. So for those of you who are candidates this year who are not going to be participating tonight, so if you're not involved in the Democratic primary, if you could stand up, I'd just like to give you a chance to just introduce yourself, say your name, and what you're running for. Anybody want to do that? Yes.
On the ballot is Diane Whitman. I'm running for mayor as an independent in Rhode.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else here who is running not as a Democrat? Okay, all right, thank you. So again, thank you all so much for being here this evening. You know, our neighborhood's power and effectiveness really comes from working together as a team. It includes individual neighbors, the WBNA, and our other great nonprofit organizations that work in the neighborhood, city and state departments, and of course our elected officials. We all play a key role in keeping the quality of life high and making sure that things are working well for neighbors and other folks in the city and the state. That hard work, persistence, and communication and collaboration are key. An elected official works for all of us who live in the neighborhood. Tonight, with neighbor questions and the candidates' answers, we hope you all will be able to determine which of these Democratic primary candidates will win your vote as our next term's city councilor, mayor, state senator, and state representative. Thank you so much to the West Broadway Middle School for hosting these monthly general meetings. You know, we do this every single month. We call them neighborhood nights. We make a real attempt to make sure that they are open and accessible to everyone. We offer childcare at all of the neighborhood nights. We offer food at all of the neighborhood nights. And we offer Spanish translation. So we are working hard to make sure we're reaching everybody in the neighborhood. These forums are one of the important things we do, but there's a lot of topics that happen in our neighborhood nights that are a real import to the neighborhood, so please do come back if this is your first time here. We'd also like to thank Residential Properties for sponsoring the neighborhood nights. They recently opened an office in the neighborhood at 376 Broadway. I would like to ask the folks providing childcare this evening, Elizabeth Sanchez and Patty Demarest, to stand up and wave. Oh, you're there? Okay. So Elizabeth and Patty are doing childcare this evening. The room that they will be in with the children is back down that hallway. There's also a gym back there. If anybody is feeling pent up and needs to go, get out some energy, go right on up.
Grove Street above my family's funeral home, which we have owned and operated for the last 130 years, give or take. So we're heavily invested in this neighborhood. And I'd like to ask for your support in this upcoming election so that I can continue my family's hard work in excelling our great community. Oh, I got 30 seconds left? Sorry, I didn't know you were doing that. That was my first time seeing that. So, I joined the Marine Corps after high school, and if I only have a few seconds left, I'd like to take a moment, since it is September 11th, it is the reason that I joined the Marine Corps, if we could all just reflect with a moment of silence, if that's all right. So I'm going to yield the rest of my time for that.
Next up, Sid McKenna.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. It's great to see such a packed house with so many friends and familiar faces. I'm Sid McKenna. I actually live across the street, so I had a short commute here tonight. I'm running for city council because I've experienced the city in a number of different levels, as a parent, as a small business owner, and as an employee of city government. In city government, I had the honor of working as the chief of staff to the city council for the last 2.5 years. There, I was able to work closely with all 15 council people and passing important legislation in the city, such as the Community Safety Act, now the PCPRA, such as an act banning illegal dog breeding or backyard dog breeding, such as ATV enforcement and other noise ordinance, enforcement issues. Also, we did work on the Board of Licenses and reorganizing that so that it was more accessible to people to be able to come in evenings and do evening meetings at the Public Safety Building, and also to have a higher level of accountability for the Board of Licenses to neighbors. Thank you, and I look forward to talking to you all soon.
Thank you. Next up, Rachel Miller.
Hi, my name is Rachel Miller. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight and thank the WBNA. I am running for city council because as a long-term resident in this neighborhood, I feel like we need two things from elected officials. We need someone who's going to stand up for our community and push back when the system isn't working for us. And we need someone who loves our community and who knows our community. I led the coalition that won better wages for janitors from building owners. I led the coalition that forced the city to make sure that contractors who are getting tax breaks are doing something back for our community. I work with community organizations throughout the city, with youth organizations, and I'm on the board of Urban Greens, which is opening up Cranston Street. So for me, if you're looking for someone who knows how to get things done and bring everyone to the table to do it, and who also knows how to push back against entrenched, powerful interests, I'm your candidate, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Pat.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you all here. It's hard to be a pastor and not have a sermon ready for a good crowd like this. And I won't pass the plate. But I just wanted to say, I lived on Dexter Street for 25 years, and I've been working in the community for 35 years, primarily around nonviolence, and have trained over 15,000 of our students in nonviolence, including our police department for 8 years. And I think it's important that we have somebody that can come in and be able to know our community in a real heartfelt manner. That's one of the things that really moved me, is to be able to say, hey, I want to be able to take on this role and not just use it as a volunteer, but be able to put some power behind the things that I've been doing all along for 35 years and will continue to do. And so some of the things that we're really trying to push is that we need to reform our schools, we need to reform our tax base, and we need to make sure that our city and our hospitals and universities are hiring Providence residents first. I respectfully ask for you to vote for me and keep me in mind tomorrow. Thank you.
again, my name is Kobe Dennis, and I am running for the job of the mayor of this wonderful city of Providence. So let's give it up for that, please. Come on. I'm born and raised here, 47 years old, 3 beautiful children, and I'm married to the woman of my dreams. Doing things like this is second nature to me, because these are the types of things I organize in our community on a regular basis. I am running to be your next mayor so we can have more of this. We need to have these conversations before things happen. We need to have these conversations before rollouts. We need to have these conversations to have community governance and have everyone involved in decisions being made. So once again, I'm Kobe Dennis. Tomorrow when you wake up and hit them polls, remember, I'm number 2 on the ballot. Thank you.
And Mayor Rhode.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, let me say, I want to thank everybody for being a part of this conversation and for coming out on this rainy day, and I know it's muggy in here, but I appreciate everybody being part of the solution, being part of this conversation in our city. So I'm running for re-election. It's been the honor of a lifetime to be the mayor of this amazing, amazing city. And I ask for your support and I ask for your vote tomorrow to continue the progress that we've seen throughout Providence. When you run as an incumbent, you run on your record. And I'd like to just hit on some high points and highlights of what we've done in the past 4 years. What we've done is we've stabilized our finances, record surpluses, a rainy day for the first time in many, many years. Our short-term finances are in a stronger position as they've been in at least a decade. We're investing in infrastructure. We're investing in kids. Every child now has a computer at every school at every moment and access to it in our schools. City services are the best they've ever been, and unemployment is down. We've seen so much progress. I'm happy with what we've done, but not at all satisfied. We have so much more to do, and I ask for your support.
We've already been in the room for a little while. We're going to catch you up to speed. We're going to alternate questions between those that have been submitted online, and we're going to have neighbors line up behind the microphone. Again, if you have a question, please feel free to line up. Candidates, you will have 1 minute only to answer the questions. Again, Terry's going to be keeping track. For our audience's sake, we just ask you to speak about bills and policy initiatives in a way that would be easily understandable to somebody not involved in the political process. We are actually going to start with a WBNA question. We asked this of our city council candidates. We're going to pose it to you as well. Let me just find it here. Okay, WBNA went door to door with a survey as part of our ongoing strategic plan. Results show that among the top concerns for neighbors is neighborhood affordability. This is a 2-part question. Part 1, tell us the policy initiative you will spearhead to take this on. Part 2, what can WBNA members and neighbors do to help enact this into law? And we'll start with Mayor Alonso.
So I'd like to speak about some of the things that we've done and also some of the things that we plan to continue to do. Currently, right now, we do have this major challenge. Providence is on an upswing in so many different ways. But what happens is that you see property values start to creep up. Rent values also increase. And before you know it, people who work in the city, who grew up and live in the city, they start getting pushed out. And so, you see cities such as Seattle, San Francisco, Austin, they're victims of their own success. Now, if we turn into one of those cities, that wouldn't be considered a success here. We need to make sure that our city works for the people who live and grew up here. So we're investing in affordable housing. Currently, right now, we have 60 King Street, 60 affordable, low-income units being produced. We have Maplewoods, another 40 units. We have the project over in front of the Central High School field. We need to continue to invest in housing. Over the past 3.5 years, we fixed over 400 abandoned properties throughout the city, putting them to productive use. We need to be creative, but we need to address housing-specific issues first.
Okay. And next, Mr. Dennis.
I just want to know, for my sake, standing up here, is the mayor going to continue to be able to go over 10, 15 seconds? Because I would like to plan my answer for that too. I just want to know, because it's been like 5 debates and this has been happening.
We're going to try to run a tight ship.
I appreciate it, and no disrespect to you guys, but it's just, it's a little troubling. affordability, affordable housing. You know, we keep saying affordable housing, but what is affordable? Who are we talking about? Because the things I keep seeing, they don't look like they're being built for us. Okay, so we throw these words around, affordable housing, rent control. How are we going to control the rent costs when our people in our neighborhoods are not even making enough money to pay the rent that they're paying right now? We need to support legislation to increase minimum wage. We need to support legislation to build new houses, and we need to support legislation for sure to fix the abandoned properties and make sure we get them in the hands of the right people, not just people coming from out of state. Stop.
Perfectly timed. Okay, we are now going to begin with questions from our neighbors.
Hi, I'm Lisa Scorpio. So, I'm going to ask you a question about the $160 million bond to fix the schools. Because that just basically means we're giving Gilbane $160 million. I have watched Gilbane do substandard work and use substandard supplies. And then if you see, and because they're the minimum bidder, but then you go somewhere else where they're not. I watched Carnivale Elementary School and the Gordon School Fieldhouse be built at the same time, and they're like night and day. I work in a school that they painted the inside, and after 6 months the paint starts peeling. Has anyone had paint peeling in 6 months? It's because they use crap. And all you're asking me to do is give Gilbane $160 million. You're in these schools all the time, both of you. So I want to know what we're going to do to fix it so we don't get all this substandard work, because I don't want to give them $160 million. So next year, the things they fixed are broken. Look at Central. We spent millions redoing Central, and Central's filled with mold, and Central's falling apart. Why do I want to give you $160 million when we're not going to do it right the first time?
Okay, let's start with Mr. Dennis.
Well, first of all, Lisa, thanks for the question. And then I am in the schools all the time, all right? So I do know what goes on. And that's the problem here. A lot of you don't know what goes on in these schools, okay? I'm telling you right now, the construction hasn't started. When is it going to start? The conversation started a long time ago. People are bragging about what they've been doing and how much money we're getting, but where's it going? Where's the 10% for minority contractors? When is that going to happen? I think we're at like 1.5%, maybe 2%. So those are the things that you can clap for that. All right, those are the things that we're talking about. So it's about community governance. All right, we need to have these type of meetings beforehand to see who's bidding, why, and where. Where do they come from? Why do we have the same subpar construction folks doing it? And no offense to Gilbane, they're a great company, but it's time's up. All right, it's time for some new construction companies to come in. It's time for some new methods, and it's time to give everybody a fair share when we're trying to build better places for these kids to learn.
There's a lot to unpack there. The first thing is, there's a once-in-a-generation opportunity at the state level. They're making as much as $400 million available, and I want as much of that as possible to come into our city to support our kids in our school buildings. And so we're proposing a $160 million investment so we can rebuild our schools. And what exactly are we going to do? Well, we've been engaging the community over the past year. We've had hundreds of people participate. And we asked, well, tell us your vision. Where do we start? Because we don't want to just rebuild what's already there. We want to prepare our kids for the education, the economy, and the world that awaits them. So we started off with the visioning. Now we're getting into master planning, and then it gets into the very specific plans. So I encourage everyone to continue to be part of this conversation. And through the procurement process, we have an open, transparent process. And everyone is open to bid and come in and be a part of how we rebuild this. But from the beginning, we designed it so that the community leads the way and tells us what they want to see in our city.
Okay. We are going to move on to the next question.
Yep, so this is a question that came in online from 1029 Westminster Street. What is going to be done to help clean the streets of trash, litter, and graffiti? Also, when will competent people be able to hold down city jobs instead of friends, relatives, and bed partners?
We're going to start with Mayor Elorza.
What was that last one? Bad partners? Oh, okay. So the first one on sort of trash throughout the city. What we've done is, over years in the city, and frankly because of the significant unfunded pension liability, what the city has done to balance its book is it has cut. And we see the cumulative impact of those, that financial unsustainability and simply cutting services. What we've done, we've more than tripled the number of street sweepings and cleanings that we have throughout the city, but we need to do so much more. And that's why we've focused so much on getting our finances in order. Because everything that we care about comes down to making sure that we have our finances straight. And what we've done, we've been able to invest more in this space. This coming year we have Broad Street that's going to get 65 new trash cans so we can have a much cleaner city. And we have a plan to always continue increasing the amount of street sweeping and neighborhood cleanups that we do throughout the city. So, when you look at where we've been and where we are now, we're heading in the right direction. We just need to continue this progress.
Mr. Davis.
I don't know if you noticed in the recording story, but everything's going to happen. Why isn't it now? What happened to the last 3.5 years? Because what I see is a bunch of selective transparency. And that's something I might have coined. I think I'm taking that. Selective transparency is when you want to show the people what you're doing when you want to show them. Okay? That's not the true essence of the word. We need to be transparent in everything we do or not transparent at all. So when it comes to the hiring of bed partners, or people that are not adequate for the job, I know all about that because I see them all the time. I just stopped some city workers today and the young man could not understand me at all. And I asked him, who he was, where he was, because I do it all the time. He couldn't answer me. That's a problem, okay? It's all equal opportunity employer, but we still should need to know the basic language of the country that you live in, okay? So my point with that is saying that the job should be open to everyone. City Hall is not open to everyone. Have you seen the new camera system there? There's a camera system in City Hall that's better than the CIA's, all right? We shouldn't need all that. It should be an open door for everyone. Everyone should be welcome in City Hall every day.
Any audience questions? Again, please line up with Matt. Feel free to ask away. Terry Snoot next to me is going to be keeping time. He'll be flagging you, letting you know how much time you have left. We are going to just ask you to come up, introduce yourself. We'll give you 1 minute for your introductions. We're going to start with our Senate candidates. First, Nick Audiello.
Quiet, please.
Hi, I'm Nick Audiello, and I'm running to be your state senator. When I was growing up here in Rhode Island, the economy fell apart, and it was no longer able to support our family's small business. And we had to leave because there were better opportunities elsewhere in this country. I'm running because no kid growing up in our state deserves to have their life upended because of a lack of opportunity here. And when I moved home a few years ago after finishing graduate school, I saw that the roads had gotten worse, the bridges had gotten worse, the schools had gotten worse, and there were less jobs. Then when we left, and it was already bad then. And after decades and decades and decades of kicking the can down the road, I'm running to build a fair economy with opportunity for everyone, to solve this affordability crisis that we're facing, to reopen the Cranston Street Armory after being closed for 30 years, to move us to fully transition to renewable energy, to protect everyone in our state's civil rights. I hope I can count on your vote tomorrow. Thank you.
Sam Bell.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. My name is Sam Bell. I'm running for the state senate. Live in Mount Pleasant with my fiance, Samantha. For me, the main reason I'm running is because I disagree with what our legislature has done here in Rhode Island. As many people probably know, here in our state, we have cut taxes for the rich by more than any state in all of American history except for North Dakota. And now our roads are in truly terrible condition. But honestly, our schools are in even worse condition than the roads. Property taxes at the same time have gone through the roof on houses, apartments, especially on cars. But of course, where they cut the deepest was healthcare. Talked to so many people, kicked off their Medicaid, including one woman, middle of her cancer treatment, has to pay $30,000 for the chemotherapy she just needs to stay alive. I don't think it's right, so I'm running in the primary against the incumbent, Jabor, because I really disagree with his positions on the issues, from his votes for all those budgets that cut Medicaid, especially fiscal year 2018, and his bills cut taxes for the rich even more. I'm also proud to be pro-choice, and I am proud to be the only candidate endorsed by Planned Parenthood, and I disagree with Jabor on this issue. And
we're at time.
Right to
Thank
life.
you.
Thank you so much.
Senator Paul Jabor.
Thank you. I want to welcome everyone. My name is Paul Jabor. I'm your senator here in District 5. Before we begin, I just want to share, earlier today I spent time at the Public Safety Complex, and our brave Providence firefighters, we had a ceremony for 9/11. So I think before we begin this event tonight, if we could just all pause and think about the tragedy that existed in this country, and the fact that right now we're a country that needs to come together, not be divided. So let's just pause for a moment and remember those that have lost their lives in that tragic day. Thank you. What I'd like to say is that I think we'll hash out many issues, but I've been involved in this campaign for the last 3 months. Both of my opponents have distorted my record. They have represented false allegations. They have sent mailings that are not true. I hope that during the course of this debate, we'll have an opportunity to find the real truth. This election is about everybody in this room. It's not about the 3 candidates. It's about where this community wants to go. Take a look at where we were, where we are now, and where we can be. And so I represent somebody who has brought stability to this neighborhood and will continue to do that. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to move on to House District 9. First, Dwayne Keys.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you all so very much for coming to this candidates forum. Yes, my name is Dwayne Keys, and I am running for state representative in House District 9 for the Democratic primary. I'm running because, in my experiences with with the respective neighboring South Providence Neighborhood Association, these last 2.5 years, and all the other work that I've done over the last 14 years for both City Council and General Assembly, I'm finding that the next step that we need is a change in the course of leadership, where we now need to have a dedicated, proactive, consistent legislator that listens, that follows through, that is engaging, that is open, that is inclusive, that listens to you and takes what you want and what you see to the State House and is reflected in every single vote and every single policy decision that is made. So in that particular aspect, I want to make sure that we're doing that in a way which we're bringing people together and fostering the unity in the community that we need and deserve. And with your vote, we can have that tomorrow with me as your state representative. Thank you.
And Representative Anastasia Williams.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anastasia Williams. I live in the 9th District on Hammond Street. I've lived there for just about all my life. And my dad came back from the military and came back home. This poster banner that I have here signifies something that I grew up in, a foundation filled with strength, integrity, and loyalty. Unfortunately, some of us have forgotten where we have come from. I stand before you as the elected official for District 9, state representative, and I am running for re-election, and I look forward to your vote. I am upset with the fact that my children, 2 of them, have to be living elsewhere because of the racial profiling that continues to happen in our neighborhoods. That is one of the things that must be changed once and for all.
Okay, as I mentioned, we're going to alternate between questions from the audience and questions that were submitted online, but first we're going to start with a question from WBNA. WBNA went door to door with a survey as part of our ongoing strategic plan. Results show that among the top concerns for neighbors is neighborhood affordability. We have a two-part question. Part one, tell us the policy initiative you will spearhead to take this issue on. And part two, what can WBNA and neighbors do to help you enact this into law? And we'll start with Representative Williams.
Thank you. First and foremost, I feel and believe that WBNA, in as much as they have accomplished an awful lot of things in our community, in this neighborhood, we need to have them be like David Stubbe, be in it to win it. And what I mean by that is, in order to be heard, you need to be present. At the General Assembly, you have to be there. You cannot only depend on one individual that's representing this neighborhood in order to make things happen. So I ask the WBNA to step up, step out, and come and show your interest, not just by me fighting for you, but being there with me fighting for all of us.
So yeah, this is a really important issue, and we've heard some of the mayor candidates speak and the city council candidates speak about this. This is going to require an effort on each level of government to do that. I have a plan to solve our affordability crisis. It involves primarily incentivizing the construction of new housing at every level. Affordable housing, middle income housing. We need a lot more housing. We need 40,000 new units of housing in this state.
Low income.
Absolutely low income. Every level. We need 40,000 new units of income in our state just to meet what the expected demand is. I set a goal at the beginning of this campaign to meet that, and you can check out my plan at nickaudiello.com/housing. It's all there, and I am excited to work with everyone in the WBNA to mobilize everyone to get up at the State House and pass the multiple bills that we need to solve every part of this problem.
Mr. Miller.
For years, every politician in Rhode Island has talked about how we need to create more affordable housing, but no one has ever said how we actually pay for the large volume of affordable housing that we need to create, which is why I am calling for taking all the money that we are currently spending on subsidies for luxury housing and reinvesting it in affordable housing. And that does mean taking affordable housing off of the normal budgetary process and making it an off-budget expenditure as economic development, as has been done successfully in just about every blue city and democratic state around the country that has done this right. This is a real area of difference between me and Jabor. I strongly disagree with that bill he co-sponsored that forces Providence to subsidize all that luxury housing on the I-195 land by letting the I-195 Commission spend our Providence taxpayer money on 15 to 20-year tax breaks that have almost all gone to luxury housing. And to give a concrete example, if you look at the Fane Tower, the city gets to vote on the zoning, but because of that law, the city has no say over whether it gets a 20-year tax break.
And we're at time. Senator DeBoer.
I think the issue of affordability is being addressed. Both of my opponents have tried to raise that in this election. If we look around this neighborhood, let's talk about our district. We have put 250 new housing units in this district alone. That is in corroboration with the Rhode Island Housing Corporation, One Builders, and partnerships. And if you go through Oneyville, Manton, and some of the distressed areas, you will see that there is affordable housing there. Now, do we have to do more? Absolutely. But for someone to stand here tonight and tell you that I have given breaks to Mr. Fane, that is completely false. General Assembly provided any breaks to Mr. Fane. Mr. Fane's getting no tax breaks from the state of Rhode Island. Mr. Fane only is allowed to come to the city of Providence and go to the zoning board and ask for permission to build that tower. That's the only right that he's been given by the General Assembly. So once again, both of my opponents have distorted my record on that issue. Thank you.
And Mr. Keys.
So in August of 2015, Rhode Island released a report called Rhode Island's Impediments to Fair Housing. One of the major issues that was already reflected in that report that we've already admitted is that Providence, along maybe 4 to 5 other cities, is the only ones that are meeting or exceeding its minimum participatory goal of having 10% of its housing stock dedicated to affordable housing or low-income housing as well. So one of the things that we need to do is make sure we're updating existing housing and zoning laws that reflect and make sure that we add in the legislation to basically enforce and make sure that the cities and towns are being held accountable, is making sure that they're given what they need so that they can meet their minimum fair share, 10% of their affordable housing stock dedicated to housing. Another thing is looking at creating, in terms of housing funding, similar to Section 8, but on a statewide level, for those who don't qualify for Section 8, but also need to be able to pay that rent, and maybe that's a subsidy we can look at for those who are working, but yet are not in that area where they afford for federal benefits.